Yeah.
The UI on the just how you view modifiers can definitely be improved. Things need to be
so
smaller.
dumb. It's so
you need to
dumb.
make things smaller. One thing you learn in like web development classes is things don't need to be so big. You know, you need to make things a bit smaller to be. I remember I saw a concept on Twitter where things were dramatically smaller and formatted a bit differently, and you could see everything you were doing without having to like click the little down arrow to make everything minimize. That's my biggest gripe with the modifier system.
I don't want to be
Ducky.
I don't want to be that technical big head, but why use the UI? I wrote a text interpreter, so you can make modifier stacks with text and then just import them onto objects with one button.
True. People should be using the console. What's everybody doing?
Yeah.
No.
Ducky, as a design guy, I mean, I don't know if you can come up with these on the fly, but 3 things you would change about Blender, interface, UI, all this. What's like the worst thing about it, other than the modifier thing? And we can totally put a cut here because it's coming out of nowhere. But
That's a great question.
oh, I got one. Whenever you add an object and in the corner it lets you change the radius or whatever primitive settings.
Yeah.
And then you just click off. You can no longer, I mean, I think there's a way around it, but you can no longer change the cylinder radius or anything. You just lose it. That's bad design.
Yeah.
That's definitely bad design. One thing is you need to, okay, I'll use the After Effects example. So you have, flat square and your origin point is at the top corner. You have these 2 values, you slide it over, you slide it down. Of course, in 3D it'd be XYZ. In Blender, you have to hit edit mode and then actually move your whole object and then bring it back so you're, fix your origin point, which in that case can disrupt your whole design.
Cinema 4D has that fix. Like the Cinema 4D origin thing, you could just like select only move origin and then you move it to where you want.
Yeah.
I think Blender might have added it, but I'm not sure. If it is, it's very new.
Okay. I think it was.
Okay, maybe I'm stupid, but that's one of my complaints.
It shouldn't be hidden. Even if it's there, it shouldn't be hidden.
Oh yeah, that definitely needs to be a more obvious thing because beginners are like, what's an origin point? How do I move it?
Yeah.
And then like they're doing these crazy animations where it's like some lopsided rotation, So
I
like
I did like 3 videos on moving the origin point, and I constantly get like, it's not called an origin point. And I'm like, but that's the term I'm using to make this understandable for 99% of my viewers. I have no idea. Oh no.
I actually really like using the 3D cursor to change the position of the
I do.
Well. For hard,
I'm with Curtis on that one.
For hard surface,
I use that all the time.
Yeah, for hard surface modeling, it's really useful. Sorry.
It is.
Banned cursor. I hate it so much.
There needs to be a better shortcut key for that. I always have to go to set origin to geometry.
Yeah, but it's
annoying.
It's so good for like pivot points and stuff. If you want to, because you can.
Pivot point. That's what they.
Yeah, because if you select 2 faces, say you're doing something radial, you can select 2 faces and like put the 3D cursor and/or the origin point like in the middle of those, and then like use it as a rotational point for doing modeling and stuff like that. And you can get really, really crazy with it. But the 3D cursor basically just acts as a variable in 3D space. So if your origin point is off somewhere else, you can keep that there as like stored temporary data, like just like copy and paste. It's like your clipboard is there, and you can always bring it back.
The 3D cursor.
So it's really handy. Sorry.
Yeah,
it's just so confusing. The first time you open Blender, and I mean, I guess it's no longer the default tool, but you click and it just moves this 3D cursor, and it doesn't really do anything beyond that. And you have like no idea what this thing is.
Yeah.
And this was left click back in the day too. Didn't make any sense. Didn't make any sense. I switched that immediately.
It kept me from learning Blender for like 5 years because I'm like every time I would open it, I would open it like once a year for like I don't know, since like whatever 2003, and I'm like, there's that life raft again, that lifesaver thing. Like, what the heck is that? Nope, still there. Close it. Next year, open it up. Oh, still there. Close it.
Still right click to select stuff. Doesn't make like I come from an AutoCAD background and I switched it immediately. I was like, I can't do left click for 3D cursor. It's too hard.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, are we a left click or a right click gang?
Left click. I come from Adobe. Okay, that's.
I was right click for so long because I really focused in on Blender and right click was everything. So even when left click became
2.8.
Well, I remember someone explaining the technical reason why left click was like.
Yeah, so I'm not completely versed in this, so this is just what I know. Gizmos. So gizmos in front of objects. If you left click to select something, you accidentally grab the gizmo instead of selecting the object behind it. So you need something a bit different, one that's directly for selecting objects and one for grabbing gizmos and stuff like that, as far as I know. But that might be...
Are gizmos a thing still?
Yeah, the like the XYZ, you know, the colored arrows and stuff.
Oh, that's a gizmo?
That's a gizmo.
Okay. Yeah. Is there shortcuts for bringing up those gizmos now? Because with the new 2.8?
Well,
because I know you have to like go to the left and click on it and then go back.
I think there are
control spacebar, and then you get that like move, rotate panel that comes up, and you just choose one, and then it just automatically puts it on. Like I put it on a video when 2.8 came out, and some guy's like, "Are you like an idiot? The first one is manipulator handles." I'm like, yeah, because the move tool, like the manipulator handles, weren't coming up in 2.79. It was just automatically like now it's there. So like, yeah, if you just choose any one of the manipulators, any like move, translate, rotate, it automatically comes up.
I keep mine on move like all the time. I don't use anything else.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, I just press R or S. I don't need the other one.
Yeah, exactly.
Anybody else have a design change?
Well, you were talking about the menu, like when you add a cylinder, then the menu, if you click away, it goes away. There's limitations, but there's certain add-ons you can get around that. Like Mesh Machine, for example, you can adjust the bevels after the fact. You can adjust. There's quite a few settings you can adjust manually, but as a design flaw, I agree that I'm sure there's reasoning behind it, which I don't know. But I definitely think, like, there's always times I want to go back and adjust the vertex count or the radius or whatever. And if there isn't a reason, it seems like a pretty easy implementation. But for me to have to make all those decisions on the spot is annoying. And then I don't want to have to use an extra add-on to have to manually adjust things. It's kind of frustrating, but I just deal with it.
That right there is one of the differences, the fundamental differences between programs like Blender, Maya, or whatever, and Houdini. Houdini, you can go as long as you don't like throw in like an edit stop like in the middle and just like or just destroy your point count order. Like you can go to the very like first sphere you made, and you can adjust its point count and you can adjust its whether it's a primitive or polygons or NURBS or whatever, and you can adjust that at the very top and it'll propagate through to like the entire thing that you did.
Yeah.
So like you never lose that history.
Yeah, it all depends.
So losing histories.
I was going to say
it's destructive modeling versus procedural. So yeah,
exactly that destructive versus non-destructive. It all depends on what has changed and whether you have a record of what has changed. So with that window, when you're creating primitives, for example, if you make a change to the primitive, that's non-destructive. If you're doing like an edit on it, and therefore you can't just go back and change the say the segments, for example, of a cylinder, because then it needs to store the record of what you've changed to then do it afterwards. And then even then it's a bit complex because you selected certain vertices and now there are more ones. So does it need to try and interpret, okay, well, he selected a loop, so let's select that loop and do that. For cases like, Mesh Machine and that you were saying about how you can go and re-edit bevels that have already been changed. If you've got a good algorithm and you select the right areas, because selecting vertices and edges is really useful in Python because it gives you lots of data about like where in 3D space those things are. If you've got a good algorithm, even if you've changed it, you can still recalculate where the bevel is and then make changes to it once you know what data is relevant to it. So for cases like that, you can build a system that re-edits. Looks like
well, thank you. Here's what's confusing about it. Every time you do something in Blender, it shows like a little piece of text in the console. So it already does have a history of literally everything you did.
But
so if you want to go back, why can't you go back to line 5, fix it, and then it just runs all those lines again?
Because it's
already there, no?
Because it's the reinterpretation of what's happened, not just what has happened.
Okay, but let's say it's something that like you're saying, you're right. Like if you add geometry, that vertex didn't exist in step 5. But like some stuff like transforming the object, like not in edit mode, in object mode, nothing should make that impossible, I don't think.
Yeah, that you're right. That should be right. But I think it's probably a case of they can't be bothered, or they just haven't been bothered. Because like,
it makes sense.
Because if you've done one thing, they're like, well, if it tracks the movement, then it should track this edit as well. And then you go down this whole street of, well, why did we even do that in the first place? That's just not, I don't know. That just becomes a complete design decision that I have no idea about.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a reason, but it can't be that hard for me to want to change 32 vertices to 64 on a cylinder I've already added.
Yeah,
True.
exactly.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
Do you guys
think that's
prefer that
coming.
Blender stays like artist friendly like it is, or do you want it to get technical? Because I know I would want it, but like I think this would disadvantage thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who don't care. You know,
I think
I'm a more artist guy, so I would rather it be artist friendly, but I can understand how that would damage the complexity that the program could potentially get to.
Yeah.
they've got a good balance.
I think if they
at the moment.
if they hid that stuff behind a menu, if they hid that stuff behind where you could open up an editor, like if you like opening up like what would it like hypergraph or something in Maya, where you can just open it up and just have it there, and then you can have like all your nodes and everything there, and then you can close it again. So the artists never have to go in there if they don't want to, but you can if you want to.
I have an idea. Back when I was using Cinema 4D R17. Their shading was not node based. So you'd go in and click these drop downs. You can look at textures, you can look at colors, different things like that. I could imagine that being like, if you like, and then you can like flip that over and look at all the nodes. That'd be kind of cool for like people beginning, just learn those little drop downs. And when they want to get into the nodes and understand what's going on, they click the menu and now they have all these node strings where they go, okay, I can build it myself and get more complexity. That could be something they could do.
Yes. Yeah.
They could hide it like they did with Espresso. If you know what Espresso is for Cinema 4D, they just hid that away, but you could use it if you want to.
Yeah,
I had a dream last night that I had Cinema 4D. It's one package I've never used.
I was going to say one of Blender's features that I really like the most is like something that just sort of goes under the radar, but it's the search function, right?
Yes.
Because
great.
Not only can you find like every operation, but you can also find like the code paths for operations, and it's just so easy. If you're writing an add-on or just an extra script that registers operations, they just appear there. So when I've done stuff like the mech generator or the space station generator, stuff like that, I just say, okay, run the script, search for it. Because I can't be bothered to like go and find where to put it in a specific UI place. You don't need that. Just type for it and it's there. So there's a lot of functionality that you can hide in Blender just away from the interface if you want.
Now when you like do that F3 thing, it will, I think 2.9 after, it'll also say, if you say like move origin to cursor, it will now say the menu where you'd find it. So now it says origin, transform, wherever.
Oh, really?
So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so now it tells you where it is as well.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, before there would be shortcuts I didn't know where they were, so I just F3 it, and I still wouldn't know where they were. So that's pretty convenient.
Yeah. I found out shortcuts through people telling me them in the comments.
Yep, or watching just long ass tutorials to figure it out, and then I know where they are.